I never imagined that telling someone to get over the loss of their mother would change my life. However, here we are. At 32, I'm Lacey, and I still don't understand why everyone thought I had committed some terrible crime. After all, everyone must face mortality at some point. Ethan, my spouse, wasn't the first person to lose a parent. In retrospect, I suppose that my relationship with his mother, Patricia, was tense from the start. She called her son every day, like many over-involved mothers do, and in order to respond, Ethan would interrupt whatever we were doing. Whenever her name appeared on his phone, I wanted to yell between us. She constantly hovered and inserted herself into our plans, acting as though she were the third party in our marriage. I attempted to plan our honeymoon for Mother's Day weekend 4 years ago, when we were initially married. I reasoned that it would establish a precedent and establish a healthy space between them. When Ethan realized we couldn't skip Mother's Day, Lace, he went utterly crazy. For months, she had been anticipating our first wedding as a married couple. We had to pay additional fees because I had to postpone the entire vacation at the last minute. That ought to have been my first hint as to my position on the list of priorities. Then I became strategic. Instead of spending the holiday at her place, I would advise that we develop our own Christmas traditions or conveniently schedule weekend trips that coincide with his family's yearly July cookout. Just enough to clear the air, but not enough for him to call me out outright. Was that deceptive? Perhaps, but there were moments when I needed my spouse all to myself. My entire life was abruptly taken over when his mother was stricken with cancer last year. Taking her to appointments and waiting for every word from her doctors, Ethan was at her house all the time. I was supposed to abandon everything and go along with them, spending hours in uncomfortable hospital seats while tests were being conducted. At the same time, I was working really hard, and my promotion at work was on the line. Nobody seemed to notice or give a damn. I would occasionally tell him, "Hey, your mom called again," days after she had made the call. I neglected to bring it up earlier. At other times, I simply stated that she hadn't made any calls. See, I wasn't attempting to be malevolent. I simply needed Ethan in our lives, not preoccupied with her demands all the time. Besides, they had already spoken enough. I feared that Ethan may go insane when her illness began to worsen. He was spending money we didn't have on second opinions, researching experimental treatments nonstop, and seldom getting any sleep. He looked at me as if I had suggested we throw her down the stairs, but I tried to reason with him about our budget. Being struck hard, I retreated, but really, someone had to be the realistic one. "What exactly are you saying, Lacey? That we shouldn't try everything possible to save my mom's life?" I asked. The fact that everyone continued falling was what really got to me, all over themselves in an attempt to console Ethan. Care packages were sent by his coworkers, his pals, were often checking in. When my own sister contacted, she wanted to know how he was doing. How about me? At home, I took full responsibility for running our household while he was constantly in crisis mode. However, nobody was offering to buy me dinner or sending me encouraging texts. I know it seems harsh, but 8 months of cancer drama had completely thrown our lives off balance, and when she eventually passed away, I said, "Thank God, now we can get back to normal." I was eager for my hubby to return. Rather, Ethan collapsed even more. For the funeral, he was unable to even tie his own tie. He just stood there sobbing like a little child, and I had to do it for him. I offered assistance. I gave him a back rub and assured him that everything would be all right. Everything that you should say. I had been browsing through my phone this entire wake, hardly looking at anyone, but deep down I was thinking, pull yourself together, man. People die. It happens. Why should I pretend to be distant when his family already believes I am? Melissa, Ethan's sister, was constantly glaring at me from the other side of the room. In any case, not everyone expresses their pain by publicly crying uncontrollably. A few of us have real work obligations to attend to. How long can people stand around discussing someone who has passed away after 3 hours of this funeral? I strode to the spot where Ethan's aunts were gathered. For the umpteenth time that day, he was crying as he showed them old pictures of his mother on his phone. I tapped Ethan's shoulder and said, "Can we finish this up soon? It's getting late." His Aunt Caroline looked at me in horror. I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. It's been hours. Lacey, people are still coming to pay their respects. Ethan's red-rimmed eyes gazed up at me and said, "At some point we have to move on with our lives." I should have stopped there, but all the bitterness from months of playing second fiddle to his dying mother suddenly boiled over. "What did you just say?" I stated, "You need to get over it already. It's not like you were a little boy anymore. People lose their parents. It happens. You can't just fall apart like this forever." The whole room was quiet. Pin drop quiet, I mean. In fact, his cousin Bethy's mouth dropped open. As if I had just stabbed him, Ethan looked at me. He muttered, "How could you say that?" I attempted to change my mind. "At my mother's wake?" That somehow made things worse. "I'm just stressed from supporting you through all this. You don't see how hard this has been on me, too." "I think you should wait in the car, Lacey," his Uncle Roger stated in this very quiet voice, really moving between us as if to shield Ethan from me. The most uncomfortable half-hour of my life was the drive home. Ethan refused to give me a glance. Without saying a word, he went straight to the guest bedroom and locked the door when we returned home. Even in the morning, he continued to ignore me. He refused to listen to my explanation that I was simply exhausted and overburdened. I told him 2 weeks is plenty of time to grieve, after he did nothing but mope for another week. That truly irritated him. "Aren't you done crying yet? Your mom wouldn't want you to be sad like this." "Don't you dare tell me what my mother would want. You barely knew her because you were too busy avoiding every family gathering you could." I countered, "That's not fair. I was there through her entire illness, physically present. Maybe checking your phone, complaining about hospital parking, or making passive-aggressive comments about how much time I was spending with her. You were never actually there for either of us." I attempted something different. "Look, I miss you. We haven't been intimate in months. First, it was all about your mom's treatments, and now it's all about your grief. When do we get back to us?" He didn't say anything. "My mother died 2 weeks ago, and you're complaining about our sex life?" I made sure to highlight how encouraging I had been during the entire situation when I informed my friend Jenna of what was going on. I prepared all of his favorite meals, attended every hospital visit, and assisted in planning the burial arrangements. I admitted to her that I might have exaggerated a bit, but the important thing was that I made an effort. At home, things continued to become worse. It was absurd that Ethan began going to a bereavement support group 3 evenings a week. What good was it to mope with other depressed people? In the meantime, I learned that his mother had given him a respectable inheritance. You would think I had said something really terrible when I proposed that we use some of the money for the Bahamas trip we had been discussing before she fell ill. "That money is going toward a memorial scholarship in her name," he replied bluntly. "All of it. That's thousands of dollars, Ethan. We've been putting our lives on hold for almost a year because of your mom. Don't we deserve something good after all this?" He gazed at me as if I were unfamiliar. "Do you even hear yourself? This isn't about you," I yelled. "It's never about me anymore. It's always about your mom or your grief or your healing process. At least I'm trying to heal." "You're just getting more selfish by the day," was his retort, and it hurt because it wasn't accurate. I have also lost people. I told him that although I was heartbroken when my grandma passed away, I didn't let my sadness consume everyone's thoughts for months. Your grandmother, who you visited once a year, that you complained about having to call on holidays? That's your comparison to my relationship with my mom? A month or so following the funeral was the actual tipping point. I was thrilled to finally do something enjoyable and regular after receiving an invitation to his cousin's engagement celebration. On the way there, Ethan was silent, and I could sense that he was reverting to one of his old moods. He remained in a corner talking to his father while I made an effort to socialize and enjoy myself. "Can you at least pretend to be happy tonight?" I urged him. "These people haven't seen us since the funeral, and I'm tired of being the couple everyone feels sorry for at the party." I rolled my eyes when his uncle inquired about Ethan's well-being. I uttered the thoughtless words, still acting like he's the only person who's ever lost a parent. Sadly, Melissa, his sister, overheard. The whole family was ignoring me in new a matter of minutes. I confronted Ethan about it on the way home. He was silent for a while before saying, "Your family is treating me like I'm some kind of monster. It's not my fault you can't handle normal emotions like an adult." I felt cold as he remarked, "I don't think I can do this anymore, Lacey." "What? The party? We're already leaving." "No, this marriage, us. I don't recognize you anymore. Or maybe this is who you've always been, and I just didn't want to see it." I dismissed it with a giggle. "You're being dramatic. You're not thinking clearly because you're grieving." "Actually, I'm thinking clearly for the first time in our relationship. My mom saw through you from the beginning. She tried to tell me, but I defended you every time. As soon as I said, 'Oh, so now you're getting relationship advice from a dead woman? That's healthy,' I realized I had crossed a line. He didn't enter the house when we arrived. He simply shifted into reverse and drove off. Neither that evening, nor the following day did he return. His phone went directly to voicemail when I called it. At first I was irritated. How immature to simply vanish following a dispute. I called his father by the third day because I was beginning to worry. The icy words, "Ethan is staying with me for a while," came from his father. "I think you know why." 1 week later, he texted me, "I'm coming by tomorrow to get some of my things. Please be out of the house from 2 am to 4 p.m. I was angry. Now he was telling me when I could be at home. I made sure to arrive home at precisely 2 p.m. In some way, he appeared older and more solemn when he entered. I asked for 2 hours. "Alone," he stated bluntly. I yelled, "This is my house too. You can't just ghost me for a week and then avoid a conversation." With a groan, he began to collect some clothing and personal hygiene items. I tried to reason with him by following him around the room. Nothing was successful. I freaked out when he started to pack and go for the door. "Where are you going? When are you coming back?" "I'm staying at my dad's until I find my own place. I've already talked to a lawyer." "A lawyer? Are you serious?" "Completely. It's over, Lacey." What I was hearing was unbelievable. "You're throwing away our marriage because I wasn't perfect during your grief? That's so selfish." He genuinely made a hard, sour sound that I had never heard him make before when he laughed at that. He left after saying, "You calling anyone else selfish is honestly the most ironic thing I've ever heard." I made the decision to take charge of the conversation before anyone else did. I made changes to Facebook, reflecting for a while on the difficulties in life. When situations are hard, sometimes the person you thought would always be there for you goes. My phone began to overflow with pity messages from friends who thought Ethan had deserted me during a trying moment. Excellent. Someone was on my side, at least. Drew, a man I knew in college, sent me a message the following day. After coffee with Drew, supper evolved into drinks. "Sorry about what you're going through. Want to grab coffee and catch up?" I didn't think twice when Drew proposed that we snap a selfie for Instagram. "Sometimes unexpected reconnections happen right when you need them the most," was a subtly evocative caption. Wow, my brother's wife is already out with another man barely 2 weeks after telling him to get over our mom's death. Classy was the comment made by Melissa, Ethan's sister, within hours. I quickly removed her comment, but the harm had already been done. I began receiving worried messages from some of our mutual acquaintances. "Is everything okay with you and Ethan as well? I heard something happened at Patricia's wake." When I contacted my best friend Jenna in a panic, she became apprehensive as well. "What exactly did you say at the wake, Lacey? Because I'm hearing some pretty bad stuff. Are you seriously taking their side? You're my friend." I offered her my version, which was obviously severely modified, and said, "I'm not taking sides. I'm asking what happened." However, she simply sighed rather than provide the prompt assistance I had anticipated. "Look, I love you, but if what I'm hearing is even half true, you might want to do some serious reflection on how you've handled the situation." The last straw was when my coworkers began staring at me oddly. At last, my colleague Tina drew me away. "Is it true you showed up to a funeral reception with a deceased son and told him to get over it already?" "Who told you that?" I needed to speak with Ethan directly and address this before my entire reputation was ruined because it's all over Facebook. Someone in his family posted about toxic relationships during grief. I arrived at his office building during lunch, dressed in my cutest outfit, and discovered Ethan in the break room with a few coworkers. I said, "We need to talk," and Ethan escorted me to a conference room that was deserted. "Why are you in this place?" When the door closed, he inquired, "Your sister is accusing me of being a monster. Telling them to halt is necessary." "You made your statement in front of witnesses, Lacey. Nobody is inventing anything. People frequently say things they don't mean. Why am I being punished by everyone for a single error?" There was more than one error. It was the result of behavioral patterns that I had been ignoring for far too long. And you're already seeing someone else. Drew and I are not dating. We're just catching up as pals. Look, I've requested separation paperwork from my attorney. I want to finish this as quickly and neatly as possible. How about therapy? We owe that much to our marriage, don't we? The most embarrassing moment of my life was when security arrived. Before I could respond, and I was escorted out of the building while people watched. I've been in counseling since my mom passed away, and the therapist helped me realize that what I've been going through is emotional abuse. I actually gasped. Abuse? That's ridiculous. I've never abused you. Constantly dismissing my feelings, making my grief about you, isolating me from my family, and now trying to manipulate me through public scenes. What would you call that? After that, everything went south. Friends stopped calling me, my sister looked aloof, and I received a lot of nasty comments on social media. I just think there could be more to the tale than you're telling me, she added cautiously. So you believe strangers over your own sister? Lacey, you've always had a unique way of seeing situations, I insisted. Ethan had frozen our joint account. After moving exactly half the money to a new account in his name, and the separation papers and a letter from his lawyer asking me to stop communicating with him directly arrived. The financial reality set in. I couldn't afford our house without his income, but I still had faith that Ethan would change his mind. At his sister's house, his family was getting together to plant a memorial garden. I wasn't invited, of course, but I made the decision to come up and make amends with everyone at once. When I got there, everyone fell silent, and Ethan's expression was devoid of emotion. "What are you doing here?" "I came to pay my respects," I said, trying to seem serious and apologize to everyone for my actions at the wake. "I was under a lot of stress," Melissa demanded. Ethan appeared astonished when I saw an unfamiliar elderly woman offer him an envelope. "What's that?" I said, and after he hesitated, Ethan opened it and added, "It's from Mom," adding that she had requested Aunt Claire to send it to me in case she didn't make it. "It's about you," he said, looking up at me. "What is it saying?" "She wanted me to know that whatever happened, it wasn't my fault, and I deserved better," he said, folding the letter. "She saw through you from the beginning, that she worried about how you isolated me from my family, that you made snide remarks to her when no one else could hear." The feeling that the ground was moving beneath my feet was Patricia's letter about me. "That's ridiculous," I spluttered. She probably was medicated when she wrote that, not thinking clearly. The disgusted expressions on everyone's faces told me that I had said the wrong thing once more. Jenna, who I hadn't even realized was there, stepped forward and said, "I think you should go, Lacey." "Why are you in this place?" I insisted. "You're my pal." After hearing the whole story, I couldn't in good conscience remain neutral, she remarked gently, adding, "I'm here supporting Ethan. For my soon-to-be ex-husband, my alleged best friend had also deceived me. All of you have delusions." I retreated and remarked, "This entire family is corrupt. Wonder why your mom died. She probably couldn't stand being around such manipulative people anymore." The collective gasp told me I'd gone too far again. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Ethan in my rearview mirror, being comforted by Jenna and his family. Fast forward 6 months, and my life is unrecognizable. The divorce was finalized quickly. Ethan didn't fight for anything except his mother's possessions. I had to move into a tiny apartment that cost twice what our mortgage payment was. My promotion at work fell through after rumors spread about my personality issues. Apparently, the HR director is friends with someone in Ethan's family. I tried dating apps for a while, but it's like this cloud follows me everywhere. I'm betting Melissa, even created a fake profile of me on a dating site with the bio, will tell you to get over your dead mom, then cheat on you. It took weeks to get it taken down. Meanwhile, Ethan seems to be thriving. He's gotten a promotion. He used part of his inheritance to start a scholarship in his mom's name. Everyone comments about what an amazing son and inspirational person he is. The worst part? He's dating Jenna now, my former best friend. They weren't having an affair. I checked the timeline obsessively. They got together about 3 months after our separation, which somehow makes it worse. It wasn't some scandalous passion. It was a deliberate choice they both made. I ran into them last weekend at a restaurant downtown. They were with his entire family, celebrating his dad's birthday. Everyone was laughing and relaxed. Jenna fit in perfectly, helping his niece cut her food, touching Ethan's arm affectionately, and exchanging inside jokes with Melissa. They spotted me standing alone near the entrance, waiting for my takeout. The table went quiet. Ethan's expression wasn't even angry anymore, just blank, like I was a stranger. Jenna looked uncomfortable, but gave me a small nod of acknowledgement. As I drove home with my sad single-person meal, it finally hit me. This is my life now. There's no going back. No one cares about my side of the story anymore. In everyone's eyes, I'm the villain who kicked a grieving man while he was down, then acted surprised when there were consequences. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and replay what happened at the wake. If I just kept my mouth shut, for one more hour, maybe everything would be different. Or maybe not. Maybe Patricia's letter would have found its way to Ethan. Anyway, the thing is, I still don't think I was completely wrong. People do need to move on after losing someone. Life continues, but I guess the when and how matter more than I realized. And maybe, just maybe, some tiny part of me recognizes that I could have been more patient, more understanding, and less focused on my own needs. But acknowledging that feels like admitting they were all right about me, and I'm not ready to do that. It's easier to believe I'm the victim of mass misunderstanding. I have to face the possibility that I've been the architect of my own destruction. So here I sit alone in my overpriced apartment, eating lukewarm takeout and scrolling through pictures of my ex-husband looking happier than he ever did with me. All because I told someone to get over his mom's death at her wake. Life's funny like that, isn't it? One moment of brutal honesty and suddenly, you're the bad guy in everyone's story, but your own.